This is probably going to be intended more for new owners that are just figuring things out. But even if you've got a console right now, and you're very familiar with it, I think there's still going to be a few things in here that you probably forgot about or potentially overlooked. So with that said, let's get into it. PS5 tips and tricks you didn't know. Quick menu. When playing a game and tapping the PlayStation button, you're brought back to the control center, which is a close equivalent to say the PS4 is quick menu. But on PS4, the quick menu is a long press of the PS button. Well, if you didn't know, on PS5, this is actually reversed. So if you're playing a game or have a media streaming app open, and you want to go right to the home screen and not the control center, do a long press and it will take you there. Options. When using the control center, press the Options button, which is now the unlabeled 3 lines button. Technically, it's still called Options. This will allow you to configure the control center. So if you don't use things like music or broadcasting, you can turn those off, or you can turn on things like accessibility options if you want to easily access those. There's also an option for quick PSVR settings if you have a headset yourself. Games Hub. PS5 does not have a quick resume feature that suspends multiple games in the background. Even though the switcher looks like it, you're still technically starting games from a cold boot. However, we all know PS5's activity cards let you jump to certain sections of a game very quickly. Well, from the switcher, instead of hitting play on a recent game, which would start normally, go to the Games Hub. This will let you access its activity cards without actually starting it with PS5's fast SSD. You're right, to where you want to be in a matter of seconds, instead of starting the game normally and then having to choose levels or multiplayer lobbies through the game's menus. If you make this a habit, it becomes a lot more convenient, especially if most of your games are digital. Short videos. On PS5, trophies have been updated with a lot of nice changes and features. One of them that you might not have noticed is videos. PS5 will now save a short video clip of you earning your trophy moments before it happens. The video will have an animation play out that introduces your trophy up until it unlocks in settings, capturing broadcasts and trophies. You can either turn this off or set the video duration, which, depending on the trophy, you might want to make it longer for more context of what you're actually going for. One unexplainable problem you may have had on a PS4 Pro with a 4K TV with screen flickering. It cuts off for a second, and then it comes back, which is definitely annoying. Well, for PS5, head to your settings, screen and video, and under video output. Try lowering the 4K video transfer rate to -1 or -2. This might remedy the problem if you encounter it on PS5. The PlayStation 5 can save some of your commonly preferred preferences. Go to Settings, Save Data, In-Game App Settings, and scroll down to Game Presets. These are some common options you'd find in most games nowadays, like difficulty, subtitles, and audio. You can set the options you normally use the next time you start a new game. These are selected automatically. Even better, you can set your preference for camera movement in first and third-person games separately. You can also choose an option for favoring high frame rate modes or high-resolution modes with the possibility of greater graphical fidelity, depending on the game. Of course, the only caveat is that this feature works on supported games only. So it's not a guarantee for everything, but still worth switching on what you like before diving into games. Now in the same menu, scroll down to check out spoiler warnings. This is a setting where PS5 can warn you about spoilers for games you don't know. You can turn it on if you want the console to do this, and then specify if you want it to be everything you haven't seen or just moments in games that developers think would be a spoiler. So as an example of where this would work, let's say your friend sends you a screenshot of a key plot point in a story-heavy game that you haven't played yet. PS5 will warn you before you check out that screenshot. That's assuming the developer has labeled that singing as a spoiler. Now, if you check the box for everything you haven't seen that doesn't matter where the screenshot is, you'll still get a warning. Not bad. Microphone settings. When it comes to microphone settings, you have a lot more options on PS5. Have settings and go to sound under microphone. You can now configure things like when your microphone is automatically used, like basing it off your current login status, or changing it when you start a chat or broadcast. In the same menu, go to Audio Output. PS5 now lets you specify the audio output to a specific device, like an AV amplifier or a soundbar. You can also adjust the channels your device supports, alongside the speaker positions of your setup. Now, if you're more of a headset user, that's good, because PS5, of course, has a large focus on the 3D audio experience through headphones. And remember, any pair of headphones will utilize this feature as long as it's through a USB dongle or the DualSense headphone jack. You don't need to buy a crazy expensive pair if you don't want to. But anyway, in the same menu, be sure to choose a 3D audio profile that sounds best to you. Everyone expects sound differently, and these presets are here for the fluctuation between different people. You can vastly improve your 3D audio experience by setting this. Okay, we're almost done with sound before we head to the bottom of audio output, and you'll have the option to turn off the home screen music or Kidon's game applications on PS5 playing audio track from that game if you're hovering over them. Kind of like PS3 and PS4 actually did this too. But most never realized this because you actually had to scroll downward on a PS4 game to hear it, and most PS4 players either turned off their home screen music or they were okay with the generic sound. But on PS5, this might be more of a polarizing change since the music will be different based on the title that you're hovering over. So if this bugs you, here's where you can turn that off. Increase games frame rates. With PS5, you can play your PS4 games, enjoy higher frame rates, decrease loading, and possibly even higher resolutions with a dynamic resolution setting. But PS5's SSD storage is a bit limited and you need the space for PS5 content. So this is where you're definitely going to want to use an external drive for PS4 games. And this is honestly a win-win and win scenario this way, especially if you use an external SSD. With this, you save the internal storage for PS5 games, and you still get to play PS4 content off the external drive with boosted performance. In fact, the load times are extremely close to if they were installed internally. And if you're like me, you might prefer a clean look in your entertainment center with no hanging wires or dongles. Well, you can plug the USB drive into the back of the PS5 and hide it away. Even better, external SSDs are cheaper than the going rate for upcoming compatible NVMe 4.0 drives. So right now you're better off buying an external SSD for PS4 games. FYI, even an external HDD still has faster loading with boosted performance over playing the game natively on PS4. Now if you like this option, make sure you go to Settings Storage and check off the option to always install PS4 games on that extended storage. It is important to point out though, if you do in fact want to transfer PS4 content right to the PS5, there's a very convenient way to do this. If you don't want to use an external drive or you don't want to reinstall your games, you can do it right over a local Wi-Fi connection or use an Ethernet cable, connecting both consoles directly. What's really convenient about this is that once the transfer starts, you can keep using your PS5. Before, if you did this with a PS3 to PS3 or PS4 to PS4, it would lock up the consoles, but on PS5, the system isn't interrupted. The mute button on the DualSense is really handy, but doing a long press on it will actually mute the PS5 itself entirely. And this will happen under any audio sources. If you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing for more.